Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Y'all, it's been 1.5 years since I've done this video. How is that even possible? I honestly don't know. But I do know it's high time I update it, which I am doing today. The difference with this from my last one is that I'm only concentrating on liquid foundations. I have done a video on my top 5 favorite powder foundations. I will put that up in a card if you want to check that out. And that's a little bit different because I really am just sticking to 5 this time. I have a couple of repeats from my last one, and I do have one honorable mention because y'all know I can't ever seem to keep it to just 5. A little preface, I am healing, recovering from one of the worst, I'm guessing, allergic reactions. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know I have flare-ups on my lips and only on my lips. The dermatologist cannot figure out what it is. They're not cold sores. It basically looks like I stick my lips in battery acid, for lack of a better description. Very, very painful. I'm assuming it's an allergic reaction, but I haven't been able to find out to what yet. So anyways, if it looks like I'm talking a little weird, it's because I'm still in a good deal of pain. And one of my cutaways, you'll see how red they are. This is the first time in 5 days that I've been able to put anything other than Cyclopate or Vaseline on my lips. But that's not what you're here for. You are here to know my top 5 liquid foundations. I am actually going to rank these. I took a lot of notes and thought to myself, okay, if I had to put them from the number 5 spot to my absolute favorite, what would I do? But there are many attributes and properties that all of these share, and they're why I picked them to be in my top 5. They are all very long lasting. They don't patch off weirdly throughout the day, no matter what sunscreen I put them over, no matter what powder I use. They're not irritating on my skin. I find that the finish that they are when I first apply them stays as the finish for the remainder of the day. They require little to no touch-ups whatsoever, and none of them oxidize on my skin. I will be doing cutaways to me applying this to show you what it looks like freshly applied to the skin, as well as what it looks like with a whole face of makeup. I use the same SPF, the Numbuzin #1 for all of these. I used the same powder, the YSL, the same bronzer, the YSL, and the same highlight, the By Terry CC Luminizer, to try to keep the looks as consistent as possible as far as other products go, so that you can see how the actual foundation shines. Even though I am going from basically last place to first place, they are all my top 5, so I obviously quite love these foundations. So even though one of them gets in the number 5 spot, doesn't mean it's really last. Does that make sense? All right, let's just jump in. Coming in the number 5 spot is Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Wear Care and Glow Foundation. I am in the shade number 310. This is $57 for 1 fluid ounce, and it comes in 30 shades. This is a solid medium coverage, and to me, it looks best when it is set with a sheer powder. I don't dislike it set with the YSL, which is not what I would call a sheer powder, but if I had to choose, it looks best with some kind of sheer translucent powder on top. This is very similar to Teint Idole. In fact, I did a video comparing this and the original and saw very, very few differences between the two. If I had to get really, 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 really picky, I would say this one is just a smidge less matte, but I am one of the ones that doesn't think the original Teint Idole is very matte to begin with anyways. And this one I feel like will work on oily or dry skin, despite having the word glow in the name, because I do feel like the finish is very natural. It's not overly dewy. True to Teint Idole form in any foundation I have tried with that name, it does last forever, and it just is very smoothing on the skin and always looks nice. So a Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Wear Care and Glow, and you can see that is the line right there, but it's actually a little bit below that. I use this more often than not. All right, and coming in the number 4 spot is the Haus Labs Triclone Skin Tech Foundation. I feel like, I feel like out of all of the ones that I'm talking about, this might be the most polarizing as to you either love it or you absolutely don't love it, but maybe it's tied with another one I'm going to talk about. But I have seen that with this particular foundation. I feel like people either absolutely adore it and think it's the best foundation ever, or they're like, oh no, it absolutely did not work for my skin. This is $45 for 1 ounce and comes in a whopping 51 shades. That's definitely the highest and most amount of shade options of any of the ones that I'm talking about. It is also the highest coverage of all the ones that I'm gonna talk about. It starts out a solid medium, and I can almost build it up to a full on certain areas of my face if I need to, but rarely do I need to because of the solid medium coverage that it has to begin with. It does look very glowy when you first apply it, but I think you can tell in the cutaway that as long as you powder it down, that is cut very quickly, and it doesn't get super glowy underneath the powder, no matter what powder I use throughout the day. So even though it does look very luminous at the beginning, it doesn't stay that way as long as I powder it down. This is the one that I feel like you have to be careful not to use too much because it has the fullest coverage out of all the ones I'm going to talk about. It does have a tendency to look like makeup on the skin if you use too much. I don't ever use more than 2 pumps, and I rarely use a full 2 pumps, and that includes going down my neck for fear that it is going to start to look a little too much on the face. So it's definitely not a sheer coverage. It is not even skin-like in my opinion, but it is a very pretty foundation, and most definitely the most bulletproof out of all the ones I'm going to talk about. I know I mentioned all of them being long lasting, and they are, but this one, y'all, this one does not budge. Absolutely does not budge. Oh, and I forgot to tell you what color I am in. I am in the shade number 200 Light Medium Neutral. So the Haus Labs Triclone Skin Foundation. Now we're gonna start getting into lighter coverage foundations. I feel like as I get older, I really appreciate a lighter coverage. I rarely ever feel like I want full coverage on my skin. And more often than not, I find myself pulling for more sheer to light, maybe light medium foundation products than not. I just feel like I'm embracing my skin as I get older. I want it to show through. I don't care if some spots show through. It just looks more forgiving. So all of these next 3 are gonna be more in the sheer to light category. And coming in at number 3 is one that was also in my last favorites video. And y'all might be surprised that it's number 3 because it was number 1 for me for so long. This Chantecaille Future Skin Cushion Foundation. This is by far the most expensive of any of the ones I'm going to talk about. It is a whopping $145, which I do think it used to be like $130 when it first launched. I can't remember. It was still expensive, but they've definitely raised the prices. And it is only 0.84 ounces. So it comes with a foundation cushion in the compact when you get it, and it also comes with a refill. So each cushion has 0.42 ounces of product in it, and it lasts way longer than you would think it does. I very often feel like I might be coming to the end of my cushion. I'll take some tweezers, pull it out, put it back in, and use the bottom of it, and I've got a ton more product, and I can switch it over probably 2 or 3 times before I'm completely out of this product. This is a water-based foundation, and it does contain talc, and there are some people who are so against talc, and that's fine if you are. This is not going to be for you if you're one of those people. I personally think as long as I am not literally inhaling a talc product or a talc-based product into my nostrils and into my lungs, I'm going to be okay. So I'm not necessarily one of the ones that cares about that to a huge extent. Now, while this is definitely the most expensive, they also are the most philanthropic company of any other company that I use as far as makeup and skincare go. I feel like every one of their products is attached in some way to a charity. Most of the time it has to do with animals and wildlife, and this one is the Sheldrake Wild Elephant Fund. So some of your funds are helping that in purchasing this product. It does come with a puff. I don't use that. I much prefer a sponge, whatever beauty blender type sponge I'm using at the time. I just feel like it shears it out so beautifully. And this one is the most blurring out of all the ones that I'm going to talk about. And I think that's the adjective that I use for this whenever I talk about it. When I first got this foundation and I applied it, I almost didn't feel like I was applying anything. I was like, what do I do in here? Because it is sheer coverage, sheer to light coverage. But when I got done with my makeup, I was like, oh my word. Everything just looks filtered. That is what this cushion does to my skin. It just gives this like filtered effect. It does not look like I have anything on my skin. It just looks like I have very healthy, hydrated skin when I apply this that's evened out. I can still see my spots. If I have any hyperpigmentation on my chin, especially from some hormonal breakouts, I can't talk, those are gonna show through. And again, I don't care. And sometimes even my redness shows through depending on how bad it is that day. And I don't care because this just makes the skin as a whole look so flawless and blurred. It also gives a very radiant finish, and I feel like that shines through whatever powder I have. It's not so much where I feel sweaty, but it is definitely radiant and, shall I say, blurring. Yes, it is blurring. Love this. I understand it's super expensive. Oh, and it only has 6 shades, which is the least amount of shades in all the ones I'm going to talk about. I am in the shade Nude, but I will say, and even they say this in marketing, that one shade, because it's so sheer, does cover many skin tones, and I do find that to be the case. I know somebody who is probably 2, maybe even 3 shades darker than me that also uses Nude, and it works. So it's going to span a lot more than just 6 skin tones within the color options available. All right, let's go to my number 2. This is a new foundation to my list. A new foundation to me this year, and I actually did an Instagram post where I had applied this. I had just got done with my cutaway demo, kind of as a sneak peek of me actually filming this video and to be on the lookout for it. And I also said, the first person who can guess what foundation I have on, I'll send a bag of goodies to. And it didn't take but maybe 12 comments. I think she was the 12th comment that chose right. And it's the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Enhancing Tint. This has taken me by such a great surprise this year. I adore this foundation. It is $49 for 1 ounce and it comes in 18 different shades. I am in the shade T7. This does have some skincare benefits in it. It's got quite a bit of glycerin. It has some prickly pear seed oil. It has some sunflower oil. So if you have oily skin, just keep that in mind, or if you're sensitive, always read the ingredients list, no matter what. But despite the amount of oil that's in this, I do not find that it is oily looking on the face. This is also blurring. However, it's not quite to the effect that the Chantecaille cushion is on my skin. It comes in a very close second, just not quite there. It is sheer to light, possibly light to medium coverage. I believe the instructions say to use like 2 drops. I use like 6. Sometimes 8 for my whole face and neck. However, you can see in the demo, it does not look like anything else on your skin. It truly looks like a second skin, very similar to the Chantecaille. This one is just a little less radiant on my skin than the Chantecaille one is. So if you can't guess, this one is very similar to me in finish, how much I love it to the Chantecaille cushion. The reason this got the number 2 spot is mainly for the price. I do also like the packaging, except that I don't like you can't stand it up. It's like an egg shape that has a flattened side so you can lay it on your vanity. I wish it would stand up, but honestly, I care more about the product inside, and it is fabulous. It works with everything. I have a whole review on it if you want to check it out. So good. And in my number 1 spot, I really thought that going over these demos and wearing these day after day after day and taking copious notes, that this might not make it into my number 1 spot. And then I thought to myself, yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. Nothing has quite done for me and my skin what the Jane Iredale Hydropure Tinted Serum does. This is probably the second most polarizing foundation base product to the House Labs. There are quite a few people who say they can't get it to work for them. I personally don't understand that. I'm not saying that you're not telling the truth. I just know that I've never had an issue with it working with me, and I also carry this in my kit and use it on probably 50% of my clients and haven't had someone that I can't get it to work. The trick for me is using my fingers. That is the best way to apply it. The Jane Iredale site, I think, says to use a brush. I do not like using a brush with this. I do not like using a sponge with this. It works best using your fingers and putting it on like you would a moisturizer. This is $58 for 1 ounce and it comes in 8 shades. Again, not the best color range, a little bit more than the Chantecaille, but it kind of is the same thing with that. It is very sheer to light coverage, so you are going to be able to fit more skin tones within each of these shades than other typical medium to full coverage foundations. I am in the shade medium 4. This medium 4 is probably my most used shade in my kit. In fact, I think I might have 1 application left in that bottle before I have to replace it. This probably has the least amount of coverage of all the ones that I've talked about. However, it is near perfection on my skin. Yes, you see my spots. Yes, you see my redness. It's what I have on today, but oh my goodness, it works so well under powder foundation, under regular powder, if you didn't want to set it at all. This is almost like an instant plumper for your face. That is what this does. When I put it on and when I put it on my clients, automatically your skin looks plumper and more hydrated. I'm talking automatically. It has just the right amount of glow without being greasy or shiny. It is the exact perfect finish for my tastes. I put on my notes, quite literally, don't know how anyone could not like this. And that's because I'm so biased to how much I like it. No, it is not gonna work on 100% of people. No foundation will. But I do encourage, if you have this and you feel like you haven't been able to get it to work out, I encourage you checking out my review of this, how I apply it, my tips and tricks for it. I will say it works best over a non-tinted SPF. And I think that comes down to just the viscosity and texture and thickness of an actual tinted SPF. They tend to be a little bit thicker than the ones that don't have a tint. And I think that might have something to do with some of the ones that aren't working or that say they can't get it to work. There's been some things where it pills and it could possibly just not be working with some of the skincare you have underneath. So definitely take into consideration that little tip about SPF, because I do think it works the best over a non-tinted one. It has the most amount of skincare ingredients out of all the ones that I've talked about. Quite honestly, I don't have a single bad thing to say about this product. I love it so much. I reach for it so much. I get complimented on my skin whenever I wear this. Not necessarily my makeup, but my skin, which is really my goal, right? Especially the older I get. So those are my top 5 all-time, as of this moment, favorite liquid foundations. I do want to mention a very close number 6 spot. This is also a new find for me this year, and it's the Urban Decay Face Bond. This is bulletproof. I mean, it is not going anywhere, and it really looks good on the skin. I'll try to put up a card where I use this. I'm in the shade 14 light medium golden in this. Very, very, very impressed with this. Like it a lot, reach for it a lot, and is definitely the closest to being in the top 5 while not quite making it. So I will have all of these products listed and linked down below. I will also have the products that I use consistently every day with them listed and linked as well. Let me know what your favorite foundation is of all time. I have a couple of new ones in the mail to me right now. They are my favorite to use and review and try out. So be on the lookout for those videos coming up soon. Thank y'all so much for watching. Be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day.